What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. And over the last, I'd say 6 weeks or so, I've picked up a number of really cool items for my collection. Some loose graded figures, a few baggies. I got some Diecasts back from loose grading with collector archive services that I'm going to show you. And then I also picked up a few comic books. So when the new acquisitions start piling up in my collection room, I figured I better put together one of these videos. And who has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Landos? Why do I have 6 loose graded Landos? It's such overkill, but it is what it is. So I've got a baggie that this was actually a gift from Chris over at Rogue 5 Toys. He sent this to me a long time ago as a gift. This is an ESB-H baggie for Lando. That is graded CAS 85. And here is a blank raised bar China Lando. There you go. So this is probably one that appeared on Return of the Jedi card backs. Lando with teeth. This is the raised bar China COO. Very distinctive paint scheme there. And I would say that's probably most similar to the no COO Palatoy, which is right here. And this is another very high grade one I had in my collection. No COO. It says single scar, but it's really kind of a bump. That's what I would call it. And it was made in the Palatoy factory. So that one is a 90. These also did appear on U.S. Kenner cards, surprisingly. So the China and the Palatoy version of Lando, you did see those, I think. I might be incorrect on that, but I'm pretty sure that you'd see both of those sometimes on U.S. Return of the Jedi card backs. So that's 2. And the reason I'm showing you all these, before I should have said this, is that I did pick up another loose graded Lando that is very hot that I'm going to show you here in a second. This is one of my better ones. I think I showed this fairly recently in a video. This is an archival AFA 85 for the PBP Lando. They don't mention it on the label, but you can see it's got the very distinctive metallic blue Bespin blaster, if I can get my camera to focus. Look how metallic blue that is. That's pretty cool. That's a Spanish exclusive Bespin blaster. Just these metallic Bespin blasters alone, I've seen them sell for $300 or $400 on the Facebook group. So it's a very desirable weapon accessory for the Spanish figures. So beautiful example though for the Spanish PvP. We're gonna keep him out because I've got one that kind of matches that in a second. I've got an old case, no teeth Hong Kong AFA 85. I still need the Hong Kong with teeth Lando. That's one that's on my want list. I just have not been around. Anytime one comes up, I don't manage to have any money. Here's the Lily Letty. This one's graded 80. So this one also has the China COO. It's just kind of a weird thing that some of the Lily Letty Mexican figures, they use molds from other countries, and this is one of them. This is the China COO Lando, but it was made in the Lily Letty factory. Very dark paint scheme relative to some of the other figures. You can see how dark that is. But here is the latest, and this one was from the Muffin Man, and this one is one I have been wanting for a very, very long time. This is the Spanish Puck, the earlier Spanish figure for Lando, and what's unique about this one is that it is called the Black Neck Puck, and you can see that the neck, unlike the rest of these, if I can get my camera to focus, there we go. So the Spanish Puck Lando is known to have, like, it looks like he's wearing some kind of turtleneck underneath there. They paint that entire neck area black versus every other variant that I'm aware of. They paint it skin color. So that's the Spanish PvP, the later Spanish figure with the Scar COO. And obviously the early Spanish Puck, they imported Hong Kong parts and painted and assembled them in Spain. So they have a Hong Kong COO, but they were painted in Spain, assembled in Spain. They're known to have kind of really poor paint apps or stranger paint apps, and this is one of them. So this is the Spanish Black Neck Puck. And what's unique about this one also is that this one comes with a textured cape, which I'll dig into in a second. But here is the UKG label on it. Puck Black Neck textured cape made in Hong Kong. The figure got an 85, paint 80. And the reason it got the 80 is because it's got a little bit of paint wear right there. And then the cape got an 85 for an overall 85. I would say this is really more like an 80 grade, but you know, UKG, they grade them, and the AFA really has too. They grade these a little looser, fair or not, versus the some of the other Hong Kong and Taiwan and China figures, because the paint apps on these are just notoriously really poor. But I've seen some AFA graded examples, same situation, where they do grade them a little looser maybe than they would a standard Hong Kong figure. So he had one little rub there, and it's not a perfect figure by any means, but this is the highest graded Spanish black neck POC that I have seen become available for a while, and I paid a lot of money for it. I certainly overpaid for it, but I just have been looking forever for this figure. So very, very happy to get it. And you can see how that compares to the later Spanish figure. It doesn't have the black neck POC. Now, I want to talk about the book for a second, and I've brought this up in past videos, but this is the PBP POC made in Spain. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but this is where they talk about the black neck made in Hong Kong POC. And one of the sections, it does mention under accessories that many of the capes that come with this Lando are identical at sight in color and shape and texture to the capes used by Kenner, which is number 9, and that's that. So there's just a typical vinyl cape. But number 8 mentions kind of this textured cape. You can see it doesn't come across very clearly in these photos, but it is a textured cape that they do bring up in the book. And so there's a close-up of the COO. So I can't show it on my figure because it's covered by the cape inside the case, but that's the made in Hong Kong COO. And the early Spanish POCs also did come with the metallic blaster sometimes. So I just thought that was interesting because, you know, I always associated the metallic blasters with Spanish PBP figures, but this is a Spanish POC, early Spanish figure, and they did say that some of the earlier POC figures did come with that metallic blaster that I just showed you with my Spanish figures. So interesting. But here is that textured cape, and I'm going to try and catch it in the light. It may not come across very well, but I did kind of notice it when I started looking at it, and it is kind of a weird textured cape relative to the PBP figures, and it doesn't come across that clearly in the photos, but you know, here is the Spanish figure, and you can see how hopefully how much smoother the cape is on that one versus this one, where it is a very distinctive text. There you go. You can really see it right there. You see that crosshatch pattern towards the bottom. You can really see it right where the light is shining right there. So it is a very distinctive textured cape, and it's not something I was even aware of. I hadn't noticed it in the book before, that some of these black neck POC Landos come with a textured cape versus the smooth vinyl cape that we're used to with the standard Landos, even with the later Spanish PBP variant. So I think I've beat a dead horse, and I've talked 8 minutes about Lando. That's probably too long given all the other items I need to go through. So let's cut it right here, and let me show you some of the other items I picked up. Next up, I added another loose graded Forom to my collection. And I already had a CAS 80 plus grade Forom, but my buddy Jason was in the process of selling his AFA 85, the Hong Kong COO for Forom. So I upgraded it, I bought it from Jason, and then I gave away my CAS 80 plus to my Patreons in a giveaway. So here are the other two that were in my collection. This is the Toll Toys Australian mail-away version of Forom. So these appeared on like the 47 back ESB 47 backs where it had the free Forom offer. Well, this is the version that was given away in Australia and New Zealand. So return to Toll Toys, and you can see there Kenner mailer box Forom Toll Toys AFA 85, straight 85s for that one. So that's a cool one. And then speaking of Spanish figures like we just did for Lando, here is the Red Armor PBP Forom. This is a pretty distinctive and well-known variant where it's got kind of a very reddish color to the armor, and this one is graded CAS 85 plus. I bought this using Google Translate from somebody in Spain, away from eBay, away from Facebook. It was a very complicated transaction, but we got a very fair deal. Worked out. I think, I can't remember. I think I paid about $300 for it, ungraded. He sent it in a bubble envelope with hardly any protection. I mean, it was basically like a normal paper envelope. Somehow it made it here safely. It was just an incredible thing. And also, shout out to CAS, because there was a stain on the back of the cape, right in here somewhere, that they were able to get out when they graded it. So I don't know how they did it, but there was a small it wasn't much, but it was just a small one. And what's unique about this one, you got to be careful with this Spanish PBP Forom, because there's almost always a break on the back of the neck there. But this one was very clean. Somehow it didn't get damaged in shipping, despite the crappy packing job by the seller. But it made it here, and this is graded CAS 85+. And so this is the one I picked up from Jason W., a good friend and Patreon supporter. So you can see the big difference in the color there. This is just the standard Hong Kong AFA 85. So thank you again, Jason, for the smooth transaction. And I did give away my CAS 80+ in a giveaway to my Patreon supporters. So Tony R. was the winner on that one. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. So that's another recent pickup. And then I also did pick up a couple of baggies, and the first one is a real heater. And I've got my other Han Haas that I wanted to kind of pull out to show you, but this is the No COO that would appear on Palatoy card backs or Tri logos. This is the AFA 85 Hong Kong that I picked up at Hakes last year. This is a baggie for Luke Hoth. I might have said Han Hoth. My brain's not working yet this morning. This is the ESB D baggie for I keep saying Luke Hoth. Luke Skywalker Hoth. And this appeared, also showed up in the Hoth Rebel Command Center playset, along with the AT-AT Commander, General Veers. So, very cool there. These are all 85 grade, I believe. The baggie is an 80 from CAS. The two figures are 85s. So, on Facebook, in the Deal or No Deal group, there was a seller in Europe who had a massive collection of these Meccano free figure sticker offer baggies. And I was speaking with Matthew B., who is a French-focused collector, and he mentioned that point-of-sale displays at retail shops in France around 1984 is when these baggies showed up. And they just appeared in big boxes at checkout. And if you bought a Star Wars vehicle or ship, then you got to pick out a baggie out of the point of retail display. And right now I'm in the lower left-hand corner. I'm going to show you this seller on Facebook in the Deal or No Deal group. He had like 20 or 30 baggies that he was selling individually on Deal or No Deal. And it was a feeding frenzy. There were so many of them. I wanted this one, and I wanted the version for Dengar, because the Dengar was actually the Spanish PBP figure packed inside the baggie. But you can see it's got the French language free figure. I don't know exactly what it says. You think I would, as much French as I took, but I don't know. I think it just says figure free, something like that. And so again, you could, if you bought a vehicle at point of sale, they would just let you pick out a free figure to go along with it. So that baggie is the one I won. I did not win the Dengar. Some scumbag, no, I'm just joking. Someone else bid while I was asleep at night, and so I missed the Dengar. I was the high bidder on it, and then someone snuck in and won the Dengar, but that's okay, because I really couldn't have afforded two of them. These are very expensive baggies. Very expensive. The Boba Fett baggie sold for like $3,000. It was just, or 3,000 euros. It was a massive number. I didn't pay nearly that much for the Luke Hoth, but it was just kind of a cool baggy variation to pick up. I was very, very happy to get this one. So I'm going to send this one off to CAS. CAS has got a promotion running right now, as Chris Whitlock is joined to be in charge of operations. They're doing 10% off through, I think, February 12th. So I'm going to send this one in to get the 10% off. And I do have another one. I actually do have this one graded by AFA. This is the Meccano free figure sticker baggie for Leia Bouche. This one is graded 80+. I've shown this on the channel before, but this is how they grade it. Now, they say it's 1983. It's 1983, 1984, somewhere in that ballpark. But this is the Meccano free figure sticker Leia Bouche baggie. They say Kenner Star Wars, but it's really Meccano. They were produced, I believe, and distributed by the Meccano factory in France. Archival case, AFA 80+. So pretty cool to get a second one. And along those lines, you know, I do have a couple of other baggies for Bouche. This is one that was already in my collection. Look how big this case is. It's so ridiculous. So oversized. But this is the ROTJH baggie, Taiwan, or made in Taiwan ROC for Leia Bouche. This is graded UKG 85%. I bought that one on Facebook a long time ago. I don't remember when, but that one is a second baggie. And then here's the third baggie that I just bought that I'm going to send in with the Luke Meccano baggie. This is a harder to find baggie for Leia Bouche. This is a made in Hong Kong Kenner baggie. I believe this is the ESB-D baggie, just like the Luke Hoth that I've got right here. So this is the same baggie type, ESB-D, for Leia Bouche. So I don't know why I have 3 baggies for Leia Bouche, but that's what I have. And so I'm going to send in the Luke Skywalker Meccano baggie and then the ESB-D baggie for Leia Bouche as part of that promotion that CAS is running right now. But that'll be my third baggie. So that's it for the 2 baggies. I'm going to pull out some of the diecasts now that I just got back from grading with CAS. So here are the diecast vehicles that I got back from Collector Archive Services, loose graded. I got twin pod cloud cars. So pretty cool to send. I don't know why I sent 2 in, but I did send in 2. They both came back with 85s. Surprisingly, I was a little surprised by that. I think personally they're a little overgraded. The paint scheme on them is really good, except for on the nose of this one and on the nose of this one. There are 2 little paint chips. But those were the only kind of main defects that I could find looking them over again, having them not have them in hand here for a while. But the loose graded diecast case that CAS does is really incredible. I mean, they really elevate these loose diecasts. I mean, we're talking what, maybe a $40 or $50 diecast vehicle, at least for the cloud car at most. And I don't know, it's just something about the case style with the ramp and kind of the presentation that really elevates these things. So I love them. I did have an Imperial Cruiser as part of this order, but those things are really, really, really heavy. And Collector Archive Services had like 5 or 6 different brackets on it, but it did break in shipping. So I sent it back to them to get recased. I'm sure that'll come back soon. But I just wanted to show you these awesome diecasts. I think I've got most of them now. I obviously need the TIE Bomber, which is very expensive. And I just picked up the Land Speeder and the X-Wing. Neither one of them are perfect, but good enough, that I sent in to be graded when I sent back the Imperial Cruiser to be recased. So that'll cover it, I think, except for, I think, just the standard TIE Fighter is the last kind of standard one I need, and then the TIE Bomber. So those are the last 2, but they do take a long time. I want to warn you that if you send these in to be loose graded by Collector Archive Services, they do take a long time. These 2 took about 10 months, 11 months, somewhere in there, and that's actually down, believe it or not. My Y-Wing took like 15 months. So they're cutting the turnaround times down, but they are the longest of everything that they grade. They really take a long time. But Chris Whitlock, again, just took over as Chief of Operations, so we'll see if those turnaround times on some of these more custom items get cut down any further. I would love to get the grading on these down to like 6 months or less. I think that would be a reasonable time frame. But they do take, as of right now, 10 or 11 months to loose grade these. But those are pretty awesome. I did also pick up, speaking of Luke Hoth, and this is why Han Hoth was on my brain. I had a loose graded Han Hoth that I picked up, and I wanted to show you that one along with some of the others in my collection. So in the last Hakes auction, or the time before that, I should say, not the very last one, I picked up an AFA 85 no COO Han Hoth and it's labeled dark tan pants. So you can see that there. This is the chocolate legs POC graded UKG 80%. You can see there it says POC chocolate legs, made in Hong Kong. So that's another Spanish figure for my collection. Now this is labeled dark tan pants, which is interesting because that's the no COO, but this is the one I just picked up from Mark V on Facebook, and this is labeled the Hong Kong dark pants, UKG 85%. This is one of a variant that I've been wanting for a while, but you can see how dark that is versus the no COO version. And you can also see that this Hong Kong has that skinny thumb versus the no COO, which has a regular thumb. But that's a much darker leg color than the no COO dark tan pants. And it's even a lot darker. I mean, it's just a different shade, really, versus the Spanish POC chocolate legs version of Han Solo's. But you can see that's kind of a distinctive chocolate color versus this one that's just labeled dark pants, but I would call this like a dark brown color. But very cool to have 3 different leg colors now. I still would like to pick up just a standard Hong Kong and the Spanish PBP variation with the pale face. Those are kind of 2 other variants that I'm looking for Han Hoth. But that's why I had Han Hoth on the brain, because I did pick up another one. I think that's really it for the loose graded figures and vehicles. I want to show you a couple of comic books that are really nice that I also added here recently. So I did pick up also 2 comic books, so I wanted to wrap this video up with those. And the first one was actually on Hakes, and I had been watching it, and you know, right when the auction was ending for the Hakes comics, which was actually the day before the action figures in the last session, I kind of just on a whim, I was like, you know what? I've been looking for this book. I keep putting it off. Why don't you just throw in a low bid early on, and if it goes, then it goes. And so about maybe 8 hours left in the auction, I put in a bid for Detective Comics issue 880, and it's not exactly like a key book or anything in terms of story or first appearances, but it's a pretty iconic cover from Jacques, who goes by one name for his professional name, but Jacques Cover and Art. This is September of 2011, and it's just one of those amazing Joker covers that I had to have in my collection. I've always wanted it, and the price is fairly affordable. I mean, it's still expensive, but anyway, you know, I put in a low bid. I accounted for the buyer's premium that Hakes charges, and these typically go for, I'd say, $350 to $400 in a 9.8 with white pages. And so after the expenses and everything, I ended up paying a little bit less than that. And shout out to Hakes, by the way, because they shipped this super cheap. It was only $15 shipping from Hakes, which, you know, and they sent it by USPS. So that was pretty awesome that the shipping cost was only $15. I've had to pay quite a bit more in the past for some of the action figures, but at least on their comics, it was super cheap, $15 shipping. So, but this is just an awesome cover. And what's interesting is that they interviewed Jacques, the cover artist, about this book. I don't know when it was, maybe a couple years ago, but he knew when he was designing this cover that he said that I knew it was going to be an absolute home run, that it would go down as one of the best Joker covers. And it really is. I mean, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea. I know some people don't particularly like it. It's a little bit disturbing, but for me, I just think it's so awesome, and it really captures how crazy the Joker is, his obsession with the Batman, the fact that, you know, his eyes and his whole top half of his head is all basically a swarm of bats. So I don't know. To me, it was just a book I always wanted. I've always loved the cover. So that's the first one. The next one is a Star Wars book. So I'm going to pull out an old one that I've had for a couple years now. This is the direct edition of Heir to the Empire #1. Obviously, Star Wars fans know this book, and this is from 1995, a Dark Horse Comics book. First comic book appearance of Mara Jade, Joris Saboth, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, and then, of course, Grand Admiral Thrawn, based on the novel by Timothy Zahn. So this is the direct edition, and I was very fortunate to finally pick up, well, I've always wanted it, I just couldn't afford it, but the prices have dropped so much because nobody cares about Thrawn, apparently. But I did finally pick up the newsstand edition of Heir to the Empire #1. At least as of now on the census, this is, and there's the barcode, this is one of 90 on the census. And I'm sure there's others out there that were graded prior to CGC breaking out the direct editions versus the newsstands. But in terms of the current census, this is one of 90 newsstand editions. And, you know, mid-1995, newsstands were not very prevalent. It's already a fairly low print run book anyway, because it's a Dark Horse Comics book versus like a Marvel or DC comic book from the 1990s that had, you know, much larger print runs. So to me, you know, the price had come down such that I just thought it made sense to go for it. I put it on my PayPal credit, and I'll figure out how to pay for it later. I put a lot on my PayPal credit here lately, so it's kind of, I've got some brutal bills to pay. I'm going to have to really be strict on my spending for the next couple of months. But anyway, pretty awesome to get, you know, to have both the newsstand as well as the direct edition. It was kind of on my want list for this year. I didn't say it was like a must-have or anything like that, but I had been watching the price of a 9.8 graded newsstand edition steadily decrease in value. And, you know, late fall of last year, it was kind of $1,600 to $1,800. And, you know, now it's sub $1,000. I picked this one up from Old Man Comic Guy on eBay. He had an auction going. He's also on Instagram, but once the auction starts, it starts. And so I did bid on it, and I barely won it. I mean, I think I won by like $5. So it was a close win, but very happy to get it. And it's just another epic Star Wars book as part of the collection. So I did pick up Detective Comics 880 in a direct edition from the last Hakes auction, and then obviously the newsstand for Heir to the Empire #1 to go along with my direct edition. So pretty amazing pickups. That's all I really had. I mean, that's quite a bit of stuff that I picked up over the last, I'd say, 6 weeks or so for the collection. But I don't do these videos that much, and I figured it was time to kind of pull the trigger on one. And I hope you enjoyed looking at it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.